This is such a spontaneous and spur of the moment type of thing that I always live for. Basically, I've seen this car advertised on Facebook over the past couple of weeks and it hasn't sold. Anyway, the bloke re-advertised it today for a reduced price, and yeah, I really can't turn him down. But the only thing is, he's 4 hours away down in Plymouth, so me and Lauren are just about to take the journey down there and hopefully come back with this vehicle tomorrow morning. So let's get on the road.
And I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
It's now the morning. We've had about 4 hours sleep after our spontaneous trip down yesterday evening. Anyway, we're here in Plymouth now and I've just done the deal to purchase this car. So let's have a quick look around it and then we'll get on the road and get home. Here is the vehicle that I've purchased, a Mark IV Fiesta van. Anyway, won't stick around too long. I've just taxed and insured it. Let's get some diesel and get home. We've just stopped off to grab a bit of fuel. Just topped up Lauren's car, but the van took 50 quid diesel earlier and it's still showing full, like 80 miles on. So yeah, it's a proper cruiser. I'm gonna get back on the road and get the car home and we'll chat more. Here is the vehicle I purchased. Now this is a 1999 Fiesta 35D van. It's a car derived van. Let's start off in the interior. It's all looking in fair condition. Fabric's starting to come up on the door cards there, which I'm going to try and sort out. The seats are nice and clean. All the bolsters are intact. Same scenario with the door card on this side. It just needs some glue and tidying up. The speedo is reading 82,000 miles and that is legit because I've gone back on DVLA's website to 1999 and it hasn't been around the clock. The van came with its original bill of sale along with virtually full service history. It's been serviced every single year. I think there's about 4 or 5 missing, but for a 24-year-old van, I don't think that's too bad at all. Let's go for a little walk around it. Front wings looking quite nice, no visible rust. It's got its standard hubcaps on there still, and 2 brand new tyres at the front that the previous owner just fitted. As we go along to this driver's door, there is a slight bit of rust coming through here and here, which needs to be dealt with. It's not looking too bad though. This panel at the back, they nearly always get dented. This one is as straight as anything. Moving on to the rear quarter, this is a very common place for the Mark IV Fiestas to rust. As you can see, it's starting to get a bit scabby. The previous owner did sand down the rust and put on some primer, but I'll be sorting that out as well. An absolute bonus that came with the car is a tow bar, which is fully functional. It's got the electric socket there as well. Not too much going on at the rear end. Got its plastic bumper that's slightly faded. As we come to the near side of the vehicle, the first thing that jumps out is this naughty dink on the back of the rear quarter. The previous owner said he recently done this and he was really annoyed with himself because it's quite a clean van. So yeah, that is quite naughty. Not sure what I'll do with that. Moving on, that's the fuel cap, nice and clean around there. And this arch is super clean. If you have a look at that, there is no rust, no bubbling or anything on this one. The back panel for the van on this one though has got some dents on it. I think the camera's picking them up. Pretty naughty, slightly annoying, but it is what it is. As we make our way down the rest of the van, this door is nice and clean, no signs of rust yet. Even on that sill, it's nice and clean. And the same story for that wing. One thing that is missing on the van is the bulkheads. Now on these vans, they only have half a bulkhead, like the piece of wood has been made, but it's not genuine. I'd love to get the original metal one back. You can see some scratches and marks from where them dents have been made. Strut tops are nice and clean, along with the boot floor. There's no rust at all. And there you can see some big plates have been installed for the tow bar, but overall I'm really happy with that. I've just lifted the bonnet up so we can all have a nose in here. There's no signs of rust under the scuttle or on the scuttle. It's completely solid. As we look inside the engine bay, it's nice and clean, no rust. Lots of dates on everything when they've been changed, because this van has been serviced, as I said, nearly every year. In here we have a 1.8 Endura diesel engine, which got me all the way back from Plymouth when I purchased the van, which is well over 250 miles with no issues at all. Didn't miss a beat. One thing the previous owner did mention to me is that the fuel pump is leaking slightly. He said it's not massive, but it will leave a couple of drips on the driveway overnight, so might be a seal or a gasket that needs replacing in that. As you guys have already seen, it was a bit of a spur of the moment idea to go and buy this Fiesta van. Now, I wouldn't recommend buying a van or a car blind to anyone, but the bloke I purchased this off was so good with the videos and photos that he sent across. I showed some interest on Facebook, and as soon as I did, he was there with his camera, recording sections that I wanted to see, recording underneath the seals, recording the chassis legs, everything. So I knew I wasn't exactly buying it blind. There's still an element of risk, but it was reduced by him sending all the videos and pictures of the van across. I was really surprised when I filled up the van for the first time. It was completely empty. I put £55 in of diesel to get it to full, and that lasted me way over 400 miles, so happy days, because my previous car, which was my Fiesta ST, was, I wouldn't say terrible on fuel, but it did like to drink it when you put your foot down a bit. So yeah, this is very economical and a bit lighter on the wallet. Something else I've been meaning to show you guys is this little gadget that the previous owner installed. Is basically just shows the battery voltage, and it's got a solar charger on it to run it, which is there in the back window, but also there's something else at the top of the window. I've got my own hazard lights. So the bloke was saying that he installed these because he worked, I think, in a shipping container yard or something like that around the docks, and he needed a van with some lights. So yeah, just a bit of a gimmick. Luckily, he hasn't actually drilled into any panels. These are just glued on. As you can see, he just peeled back the headline in. So if I want to, I can just remove them quite easily. All the wiring's a bit messy, as you can see. But at the moment, it's just a gimmick. I probably will remove them soon. Anyway, I've shown you guys around the new purchase. Let's take it for a little drive and see how it handles on the road. Crikey. Don't think I'm ever going to get out of this junction. Right then, how does the Mark IV Fiesta van drive? I'll tell you what, it's a lovely smooth ride. That's probably down to its tired suspension. I don't think the shock absorbers have got much gas left in them. It's a really boaty ride. Yeah, it's alright, it's like driving on a cloud, very sort of bouncy but gradual, if that makes sense. A little bit like driving my Mark II Fiesta before I lowered all the suspension. It's very nice to drive though. All of the gears work fine, there's no crunching. there's no whining. The speedo works perfectly, fuel gauge works perfectly. It's just a nice van to drive. Now I purchased this van with a couple of months MOT left on it. I am going to be putting it through an MOT, but from what I can see, it all looks reasonably good. The only thing I haven't shown you guys is the underside, so let's take a look at that. Let's have a little look underneath my Mark IV Fiesta van then. I start at the back, looks pretty good. You got the tow bar there, a big old unit. It's mounting to both of the chassis legs there. The shocks look nice and clear, no misting of oil coming out of them. Same with that side as well. Brake lines and the rear cylinder not leaking either. Chassis legs look pretty rust free, and even got a spare wheel. On a previous MOT it said about some welding that needed doing and some rear axle bushes, but I believe this to be done. As you can see there, I think someone's welded a nice plate in there or even cut out the rust. Same on the near sides as well. I think someone's welded in a plate there and replaced the axle bush, so that's one less job for me to do. Coming along the near side sill now, it looks really good. Hasn't been jacked up in the wrong place and bent the sill. There's no rust or no visible signs of rust. Coming back on the chassis leg now as well, that's nice and clean, along with the floors on the near sides. And this is the off sides of the vehicle now, going down the sill once again. No rust, no horrible bent sill. Chassis leg looks nice and clean as well. Yeah, really happy with that. There's some sort of coating on the fuel lines, handbrake cables and brake cables. It almost looks like wax oil, but it's protected them. None of them have corroded massively, so that's a bonus for me. Coming onto the front of the suspension now, it's all looking nice and good. CV boot is intact. Subframe looks nice and clean. There's a slight bit of damage to the exhaust flexi, but that's not an MOT failure. It's not leaking. I think the van has been bottomed out a couple of times. There's some scrapes on the subframe and gearbox here. Even a little chunk taken out there. But it's nothing major. It's not leaking gearbox oil or anything like that. Now on the other side of the suspension, looks all good. All the boots are intact. And no leaking from that strut again. Gearbox is nice and clean. Yeah, not too bad at all. But here's the elephant in the room, the repaired sump. I can only guess that someone has damaged this at some point in the van's life and they've whacked a bit of metal on there. It looks horrible, but it is sealing it and it hasn't had no drips of oil. Here's another little bodge. Someone's put some tin foil on the fuel pump for some reason. I think it was leaking, so that's something I'm going to have to correct. As I said, change a gasket or something like that. But it's nice to see all the front panel is straight and hasn't been crashed or bent in its life. Overall, the underside I'm really happy with. There is a few jobs for me to do, but that's okay because there's other things I want to do to the van as well. Here's another shot of the engine bay. Look at that. Doesn't it look good? I'm sure you've all already seen it. I purchased the van for £700. Now, I think that's a bit of a bargain. It was originally listed for £1,000 3 weeks prior to me buying it. And I sent it to my dad. I said, that looks really cool for £1,000. And then I was scrolling through Facebook the other day. It's been a couple of weeks and it popped up again. The bloke had reduced it to £700, so I thought I had to buy it. I had to buy it. £700 for a Mark IV Fiesta van that's got MOT, it's on the road, it's driving, there's nothing majorly wrong with it. I thought I really need that. If I'm being honest, it's tied in really nicely with me selling my Fiesta ST. Now, I owned that for 2 to 3 years and I've recently just sold it. If you watched a previous video on it, you understand why I sold it. This popped up and I thought, once I've got rid of the ST, I can now daily the Fiesta van, and that is the plan for the summer. That is, I don't think I'll be keeping the van forever. I don't think it's a forever vehicle, but I would like to do some jobs on it. Now, what I would like to achieve in my ownership is completely clean the inside, outside, give it a deep, thorough clean, clean all the plastics, clean all the headlining, vax the seats, give it a real good machine polish. I'd also like to tidy up the few imperfections in the bodywork, such as the dent in the rear quarter, along with the arch, because that's a little bit scabby, and I would like to tidy that up so it's looking nice and presentable. Another thing I'd like to do is get rid of that wooden bulkhead and replace it with the original metal one that should be there. Now, if I was going to play around with the van, I'd love to lower it and get the steels banded. I think, yeah, it would just look so cool. But I've got to remind myself, this is a bit of a budget daily over the summer. I don't want to get carried away modifying it and ruining the originality, because apparently there's only 41 of these left on the road. Now, obviously, you guys know I bought this van for £700, and after I've done everything I want to on it, I am planning on putting it into an auction. So what I'm going to do is, I've told you the purchase price. I'm not going to tell you anything else I spend on it up to the auction day, and then what we'll do on the last video is we'll work out what I've spent and see if I'm in profit. But don't get me wrong, I have not purchased this van to make a profit or to flip it. I've purely bought it to have a nice run arounds daily in the summer, whilst I save up to try and get something a little bit more nicer again. I almost forgot a couple of things, so I do want to put a fresh MOT on the van, along with repairing the slight fuel leak that it's got coming from the pump. There's just a few things that need doing to the van to make it more presentable and reliable. I think that brings us nicely to the end of this video, introducing the Mark IV Fiesta van to the channel. I'm glad the cat's out of the bag now. I know I have been teasing you guys on social media for a couple of weeks now, and I don't actually think anyone guessed a Mark IV Fiesta van. There was loads of really close guesses, but no one was spot on. So yeah, here it is, the new daily. One thing I would like to stress before I go is that I'm now going to be cracking on with my Mark II Escort again. I was just caught up fixing the Fiesta ST and buying this Fiesta van, but now I've got a new daily. I'm going to be cracking on with the Escort project, and I'll just be tinkering about with this as and when I've got time. Please do let me know what you think of the van in the comment section below. I'm interested to see your guys' views on it. Anyway, if you did enjoy this video, please give it a like, and if you like what you see, subscribe to the channel to see more. Thank you all for watching, and until the next one, I'll see you guys later.